If you have a bad habit that you've never been able to shake, like an addiction to like alcohol or drugs, nicotine, food, overeating, whatever it is, a behavior, a substance, if you cannot control it, it's not because you have a weak will. It's not because you haven't gotten the willpower. It's not because you haven't reasoned well enough. It isn't in your genes, okay? Bad habits are not hereditary. It isn't because you need to be educated. You can't learn your way out of bad behavior. You can't stop doing the things you don't want to do just because you decided that you don't want to do them anymore. Okay, say you eat unhealthy food and you're obese. You overeat. It's not because you don't know which right kind of foods or the amounts to consume. There's a certain amount of common knowledge about nutrition and good eating that's useful, of course. Calories and balancing proteins and carbohydrates and fats and all that kind of stuff. But really, how many people overeat healthy foods too? A lot of them. Unhealthy eating is because you're out of control. Something has taken over. Something has instilled a need for too much food, too much fulfilling foods. Something that doesn't belong. There's something that has to do with your emotions. And your emotions have opened you up and they let something inside. Something that's not you. Something that's hitched a ride in your emotional state. And that's why you do the things that you don't want to do, like overeat. That's why you do anything in your life that becomes unmanageable. Chances are you're too emotional. A lot of people think, oh no, I'm in control. I don't wear my feelings on my sleeve. That's great. But that's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about emotional force, those indecorous energies that you don't even know you have because you're so busy escaping from the anxiety that they produce, you just can't see them. You can't see their source either. And if you can't do that, then you'll never feel bad enough about them to ever seek a real solution. Or you'll feel bad about it, all right. You'll feel the consequences to your health, to your appearance, but you'll stay addicted to the foods and never get away from it. And that's because anytime you do feel bad about it, you'll just go back to whatever it is that's caused you to feel bad in the first place so you can feel better in the second place. So you can feel good again. So you can feel bad in the first place and then feel good in the second place. See, that's how addiction really works. It goes beyond the body. It becomes a metaphysical event. Addiction and recovery are metaphysical. It's a vicious cycle. You cannot help it. It's compulsory. It's madness. We always go to wrong solutions for the things that we'd rather not experience or to hide the feelings that we have about people who we know are wrong. And that's when we judge them. And we judge our own wrongs too. You better listen to me. I'm giving you the solution to your overeating, for your addiction, whatever it is. Maybe even your undereating. Same thing. It's a food issue. For abusing anything. So for example, you have a problem with food, right? Okay. I'm saying it's because of an emotion. If you have a problem with relationships, it's emotion. If you can't stop smoking or drinking or taking any kind of drug, opioids, for example, big topic right now, right? Political. You can't blame the doctors. You can't blame the government. You can't blame pharmaceutical companies, the Mexicans. How about the mafia? You can blame them, but you'd be wrong. It's you who are culpable. If they have anything to do with it, it's just to exploit your need. You cannot simply cast blame on conspiracies and government plots. I don't know if they're conspiring. And yes, it seems obvious that companies and governments are making money or deriving power out of people's faults. But you know what? It's irrelevant. If you were right, if you were not so emotional, no one could reach you. Not the mafia, not the government, not your mother-in-law, your boss, your spouse, your girlfriend, your boyfriend. Same with food. Who are you going to blame? Ronald McDonald? Monsanto? Come on, don't be foolish. Because you're the one who has luxuriated in the emotional bathwater. You're the one who's created the need to abuse any of these substances, any of these behaviors. It all goes to being emotional. Everyone who does anything obsessively is a victim of their own emotional indulgence. It isn't psychological. There's no therapy for this that works. Emotions are metaphysical, and the problems that they cause require a metaphysical solution. They require a spiritual approach. Now, there is a solution to all emotional problems, and, therefore, to any of these issues. There is not one that the correct spiritual approach cannot cure. The question is, will you accept it? For the one or for the 100 or for the 1,000 of those who will, maybe that's who I'm talking to, and maybe that's you. I know that we've all been taught that our emotions are positive and enjoyable, or at least beneficial. Not true. Ultimately, there's only one effect to all emotion: a slow, sure death. Emotions, and it doesn't matter if you get off on them or hate them, all emotions over time evoke a negative physiological response in the body and in the mind. There are no emotions that can ever be safely indulged. You'll experience all of them, of course. I'm not saying you have to become a Vulcan, okay? Even Spock had his human emotional side, but it haunted him. And how did he survive it? He overcame his emotions. He had the emotions. He was half human, but when he rose above them, things turned out okay. He could then know what the next best move was. He saw the next right thing. It became obvious to him. All right, I know it's fiction, all right? I know that. But truly, he's one of the great storybook characters of all time because he's true to life. The Spock character strikes something deep within us. We know viscerally, deeply, that we're too emotional, and it haunts us too, just like it haunted him. The intellect says, go ahead, pamper yourself and your feelings, but the intellect is a liar. So I'm not saying you will never feel emotions. I'm not saying become an ice cube or a machine. I'm speaking about indulgence and using people and using places and things to get off. That's your Achilles heel. If it's pleasure, then it's to get high. If it's resentment, then it's to feel like God judging others, puffing up with pride. Either way, you're an emotional disaster. You're abusing your humanness, and you are going to die from that. The moment you become conscious, and I show you how to do that, the more you become conscious, the more you separate from those emotions, and you can see them for what they truly are. You can live rationally. You can live sanely without whatever or whoever it is that's stirring up those emotions and controlling you with them. In other words, you get your power back. You get your life back. Life becomes manageable, not through the emotions, but through intuitiveness. Emotions block your intuition. They cancel out your creativity. They cancel out your peace of mind. The more you live consciously, the more you improve all throughout your lifetime. You're spiritually healthy. You lose the needs or the addictions. That's what they are. They're needs. You stop needing emotional response because you exist in a place of neutrality. And unless moving in that direction, which is inward, right, toward God, then life will always remain a sick and unhealthy trek, if I can use that word, a trudge toward an emotional demise instead of a happy ending where just time's up and you die from old age. You don't want to go to an early grave by emotionally induced physical breakdown, cancer, heart disease, whatever, diabetes. We're not supposed to die from these things. The thing inside that says, this is wrong, you must seek happiness, you cannot live without being happy, without your emotions, you'll become dull and boring and sad. Come, let me show you how to be joyful. That's lying to you. Something wants you to believe that happiness is the goal of your existence. It is not. That is a distraction. It's a distraction from finding peace through God consciousness. Intellectuals, right? Like counselors, therapists, psychologists, the gurus, the life coaches, the promoters of the non-duality cults and the religions, they all preach this philosophy in one form or another. Seek happiness. They don't know what they're doing. They don't know what they're talking about. They do not realize what they're doing. They don't know that emotions are out of the metaphysical realm, not the physical one. Or if they do realize it, like some of the religions do. But then they use that to recruit the suffering, to indoctrinate. No one is ever truly at ease or happy, if you like that word, until they first get rid of all of the unhealthy ties with their emotions. Not suppress their emotions, not deny their existence, but severed this unholy relationship with whatever it is that triggers them. That's freedom. And it comes automatically once we cut loose from our bondage to that lying self, from that ego. Then life becomes a joy, truly. Not the emotional kind that's designed to numb the consciousness with the blissful, artificially induced feelings, money, exciting relationships, hallelujah, praise Jesus, we're so holy and special. No. It's a kind of inner peace that can't be explained or even envisioned by anyone who's still devoted to self. Anyone who uses emotions in the name of goodness, of God, of Christ. The role of emotions is to serve darkness, to kill you off, taking as many with you as possible. And it does that by convincing you that embracing emotion is needed, that it's normal, that it's even desirable as long as you can control them. What it won't tell you is that they are impossible to control and still live long. That's ego speaking. Embracing emotions, especially the pleasurable ones, it's a fatal game, but it's hard to resist because it's so easy to justify once addicted to them. Man's role is not to fall for it, but instead to turn behavior and thinking over to God so that he can save us from the emotional energies, or more pointedly, from their dark underlying cause, resentment.